Denver Nuggets for the Western Conference Finals. And the Lakers getting to the Western Conference Finals is an amazing feat in and of itself, considering where the Lakers started and now where they are leading. And now they are 8 games away from winning an NBA championship and going on an incredible, historic level run. And now many people think that there's a script, right? You know, the NBA is rigged, the league, the world wants the Lakers to win because if the Lakers are good, it's good for business. And many people think that, like, hey, give the Lakers the championship. They're going to win the NBA championship. It's going to be Lakers versus Celtics. That's how the script is going to play out, right? We've heard all like the tinfoil hat people that believe this, right? And now I do think the Lakers are going to beat the Denver Nuggets. And I do think it's very likely that the Boston Celtics are going to beat the Miami Heat. And you're going to have a Lakers-Celtics showdown for number 18. And if the Lakers win that, the Celtics rivalry in and of itself is an incredible storyline. And there would be several storylines that you could write that they literally make movies about and documentaries about. And this is where it gets very interesting. So again, the Lakers up to this point have already gone on a historic documentary level run, right? To go from being 0.2% chance of making the playoffs, being an absolute terrible team, to turning it around at the trade deadline and being the best team in the league is a huge story in and of itself. And again, something that they make movies and write stories about. Looks like that story and that documentary is being worked on for the Lakers championship run. So LeBron James, Lakers, being filmed by producer of Michael Jordan's The Last Dance. It's a documentary that came out about the Bulls and their historic runs and Michael Jordan and all that stuff. If you haven't seen it, gotta check it out. Well, it looks like this version of the Lakers, along with LeBron James this season, is being worked on for a potential Last Dance style documentary if the Lakers go on a historic run here. So here's what is said. According to Brandon Contes of Awful Announcing, Lakers radio analyst John Ireland of ESPN Los Angeles said on the Awful Announcing podcast that producers of The Last Dance are collecting footage of James and the Lakers for a potential docuseries. It's not certain that a new show will be created, but the recording content just in case. What was said is, I hope I'm not talking out of school here. Andy Thompson, the guy who shot The Last Dance, Michael Thompson's younger brother, who has worked for the NBA for 30 years, has spent a ton of time with us this year. So if LeBron ever wanted to go down this road, I think Andy is stockpiling that just so he has it and has the opportunity to tell the story, Ireland said. It was also followed up, if we go on a magical run to the title, Andy, who was the driving force behind The Last Dance, most of the stuff you saw in those 10 episodes was shot by Andy Thompson, Ireland added, and Andy is a smart guy. He's already working on a story about the end of LeBron's run, like he had one for the end of Jordan's run. So what this is again, tinfoil hat on, this is a documentary that is being worked on and is in the process of potentially happening if the Lakers win the NBA championship this year. This is why I brought up the whole, it's a script, it's rigged, it's this, that, and the other. And it really does beg the question of, like, is LeBron James and the Lakers going to win the NBA championship this year? Because, again, this would be a historic, unprecedented level story that I've said in the past, I've said several times before this news came out, that this is like what they make movies and documentaries about, right? That underdog who has their backs against the wall, looks like the impossible, and they make it happen, they overcome it. I mean, every Disney movie is about that, right? And now you're talking about a sports series that could potentially happen about this very thing and LeBron's historic run. Think about everything that has happened this year. You know, LeBron breaking the scoring title, Lakers being terrible, LeBron dealing with injuries, Anthony Davis dealing with injuries, new coach, Lakers a month before the playoffs starts are in the 13th seed, go on this run and make the playoffs, end up making it out of the first round, and then they go up against the defending champions who've won 19 straight times against the West, have won 28 straight road series games, all this stuff. Warriors have never lost when Steph and Clay both scored 20, and the Lakers just beat all of those. all of those records, all of a sudden Lakers blow through that. And now they're going to play the Denver Nuggets, who the Lakers stack up against very well and very likely should win. And now you got potentially a Celtics and Lakers fight for number 18, the tiebreaker. I mean, this might be the greatest documentary ever put together and assembled. But before we all just jump down this rabbit hole of conspiracies and stuff like that, a couple things. One, sports always seems to kind of follow these historic moments. It's what makes sports so fascinating, right? You have this just rich history of impossible runs, of impossible things that just seem like they're never going to happen. And the NBA has been around for 75 years now. And, with all of that, eventually a 7th seed is going to win an NBA championship. Eventually a team that starts off terrible is going to win an NBA championship. Eventually a play-in team is going to win an NBA championship, right? A lot of the things that the Lakers have potential of doing, it's all stuff that eventually over the course of time is going to happen regardless. And it's a team that is capable of doing that. If this was the Oklahoma City Thunder, who were great, but they overachieved. A lot of people thought they were going to be a tanking team. If it's a team like that is going on this historic run, all right. Hey, this is pretty crazy. This is pretty bizarre. But no, I mean, you got LeBron James, arguably the greatest player ever to play the game. Anthony Davis, who's still a top 10, top 5 guy in the league. Lakers are the only team with 2 top 10 guys in the league. They have the best defense. They have, a top offense, like everything. So it's not like it's some team that just seems like it makes zero sense for them to be able to achieve this. It's a team that is very capable of achieving this. And most people think that they would have because of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It's like, man, you got 2 top 10 guys, 2 of the best players in the league on the same team. You should be achieving this regardless of your seeding. But it's still something that is heroic. It is something that is, again, this incredible journey that is yet to happen. But how many 7th seeds have had 2 top 10 guys on the team? And, usually if something like that happens, it's because there's a major injury and they just don't get back in time and they end up losing the first round or whatever, right? It's just the circumstances. Things just kind of fall in line. It's the beauty of sports, right? Baseball has had historic runs. Basketball, football, pick a sport. They've all had these just ridiculous moments that just seem like a complete anomaly that end up happening. And you'll even see, sometimes you'll have a crash course and months in advance, this is where it's heading. And it's not some big conspiracy, right? It's just, this is where, you could just tell, okay, the Celtics are a really good team with a chance to compete for a championship. The Lakers are a very good team since the trade that brought in all of these new players, all of this new talent that fits seamlessly next to LeBron James and Anthony Davis, have completely, rejuvenated this team and this roster, and they have the belief and they have everything, and they're headed for a crash course. It's not something that is super far-fetched that just nobody saw coming. And the other point that I wanted to make is it's not uncommon for potential historic moments to start ramping up and a documentary series is being worked on just in case that happens, right? So LeBron getting the scoring title, there will probably be a documentary that comes out at some point about that and LeBron and his, run to that. And they'll probably have footage from a year or 2 earlier in which they knew, okay, in the next year or 2, LeBron's going to break this record just based on how many points he scores and blah, 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 blah. He's eventually going to hit that point. Let's start the documentary now and have that. And then well, obviously it did happen, but let's say it didn't work out or something happened or LeBron retires or something like that, right? Then it's okay, well, we can use that footage for a different documentary later on down the road, or we could sell that footage to somebody else later on down the road. So that way the investment isn't squandered, right? And so when you're talking about the Lakers potentially going on this historic run, they are gathering footage and, recording and doing all this stuff, building up for this documentary. And if the Lakers don't win the NBA championship and they don't get there, well, then at least you still have all this footage that you can sell to somebody that's making a documentary about, like, maybe the Lakers' history or something. Or, maybe LeBron's scoring run, and they add some of this footage of this season, and maybe let's say the Lakers make it to the finals, but they lose to Boston, right? And you could add that stuff like, oh yeah, LeBron went on this historic, and you have this like segment part of it where it's like LeBron on this historic run getting to the NBA finals and losing to Boston, but he did all this other stuff, right? There's potential for that footage and that archive for other uses or other things. So it makes sense. Okay, let's start recording the stuff. Let's start putting the stuff together in case the documentary we want to make turns out to be a reality, then we can make said documentary. If it doesn't, well, then now we have all this stuff to maybe look in and potentially do other things with that. So it's not a full-blown, tinfoil conspiracy, but it is pretty interesting, right? And it is something that I thought was very fascinating because this information came out before Game 6, I believe, of the semifinals against the Golden State Warriors. And, The Last Dance, in and of itself, again, incredible documentary. It might be the best sports documentary ever. Like, it is so well done, so well executed. It was very fascinating, right? And they had footage, and they compiled all this footage from, the late 80s, 90s, all the way up through Jordan's run, never before seen stuff, all this stuff, right? So they did their part, and they're very likely going to do the same thing in this Lakers documentary. But it would be worthy of that level of documentary. Again, a 7 seed has never won an NBA championship. Only one other 7 seed has ever made the conference finals, and that was the Seattle Seahawks, if I'm not mistaken, or Seattle Supersonics, if I'm not mistaken. The Supersonics made it as the 7th seed. It ended up losing. And then, we've never had a play-in team get to this point since Miami and the Lakers. But let's say Miami does beat Boston. You still have the same storyline, right? Because that would be the bubble rematch. And a lot of people like to discredit the bubble. And a lot of people like to talk about how the bubble wasn't this real thing. And it was these like special circumstances and blah, 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 right? And so either way, if the Lakers just get to the NBA finals, then you can make a documentary in and of itself, right? And then obviously if they win the NBA championship, then you have this just incredible story. A team that had, less than a 1% chance of even just getting into the play-in and the playoffs ended up winning the NBA championship or at least making it to the NBA finals. And it is that type of story. It is something that is that compelling, that would be that like, wow, what an incredible, and you get to see all this behind the scenes stuff. You get to see like the journey play out, like, Laker fans and sports fans alike, even people that hate the Lakers or hate LeBron would still find this very fascinating and entertaining to just see all of the ins and outs of this run and kind of see like the troubles, and maybe you get some locker room insight and, kind of hear what was really going on with those Lakers. Because you've heard of stuff from Patrick Beverley. You've heard of stuff from, Russell Westbrook, stuff about how, and just guys in general, and just things coming out of the front office about how like the team was just in disarray, they weren't getting along, there was all this drama and just issues, right? Just like you saw in The Last Dance, all of that came to light, and you got to see a lot of the problems behind the scenes. Maybe you get that in this documentary. That could just be very fascinating and get a peek and a glimpse into that world. Again, it's a very fascinating thing. I don't think it's some big conspiracy. But I know people are going to take it that way, and I just wanted to have a little fun playing into it. But in reality, I think it's straightforward. I think they're putting this together just in case, because the Lakers are here. You know what I mean? Like, the Lakers are here. It's not like we're going into the playoffs, and it's like, well, hey, we should start this documentary just in case. No, I mean, this is something that the Lakers are in the Western Conference. They're 8 wins away from winning an NBA championship. And you can make an argument they have as good of a chance as anybody. They have the best defense in the entire playoffs. They have a top offense in the entire playoffs. They have 2 top 10 players in this playoffs. LeBron James has shown that he can still take it to another level. Anthony Davis has been arguably the best player on both sides of the ball this playoffs. Like, it's not like it's some crazy team that is like, I mean, Miami's run, you can make an argument, has been crazier than the Lakers as far as the playoffs go. Miami's playoff run has been crazier than the Lakers' playoff run. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? What do you think of this? Do you think it's worthy of a tinfoil hat for the conspiracy? Do you think no? Do you think it makes sense? Is it a documentary you want to see? Do you think the Lakers win the NBA championship? All right, Phil, whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know.